Welcome to Jets Rewind. I'm Marty Schupak in New York. I'm joined by my two great friends, Ray Clifford in Ohio, Ralph Sharega up in Massachusetts. Before I warmly welcome them in, I just want to apologize to all the Jets Rewind fans that might have uh, thought we were having a live stream. I thought so too. We had a few glitches, so you're probably seeing this. It's on a recording. So we'll check out the live stream again in a couple of weeks. We're gonna do this somehow. We'll get a better high tech guys or IT guys, whatever you call them. Ray, how you doing today?
Doing good.
There you
Doing
all right. And Ralph, how are you?
pretty good, pretty good.
It was a very interesting week, and
Mm.
if I could sum up, I guess our general manager Joe Douglas, it would be the old Shakespeare quotation that patience is a virtue. Because unlike a lot of other general managers that like to want to jump in on the first day, he held his own and he got killed on the internet. We're going to get into all that, but as usual, Ralph Sharega has a classic Jets trivia
Well,
question.
yeah, it's not Jets because it was given to me by my buddy Matt Lewis, and it's a good question because we're kind of in between the Super Bowl and the draft, so it's a Super Bowl draft question, and you guys can team up and see if you can beat my score. There are seven quarterbacks who were the first pick in their draft and also won a Super Bowl and throughout history. Can you name all seven? I got six out of seven. And so you guys team up and see if you can beat me.
Didn't did we did you have a question like this?
It wasn't. I asked it
Similar.
of you guys on a text, and nobody got back to me. It was in the middle of a game.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. All right. We'll work on it. Ray will come up with six. I'll come up with one.
yeah.
I got my one, Ray. So you got to work on the six. And the one is an obvious one, but that's a very good question, Ralph. So you're saying there are seven number one picks,
Seven quarterbacks who were the number one pick and also won the Super Bowl.
and they've won the Super Bowl.
Mm.
Okay. Now, does that mean they had a quarterback the Super Bowl?
Yes. And another thing I want to say, it's since the common draft, because technically Joe Namath was actually a first round pick, but they were in those days they just told the Jets to go out and sign him.
All right.
There was no common draft, so he doesn't count.
One other quick clarification. You mean first by their team, not necessarily the first overall, right?
No, first overall.
First overall. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I got
And I asked.
two. So when you just so again clarification, when you say um, they could have been on the team, or they could have been on. They had a quarterback to Super Bowl. So I'm going to mention a name. So Drew Bledsoe wouldn't be one of the names, right?
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, it's I guess guys who started and played the game.
All right. So he's definitely not one of them.
Yeah, he's not.
Ralph, I just figured out your
Ooh.
question for next week. It's like who the number one picks that were sitting on the bench during a Super Bowl.
That's a great question. That's a great gift, Marty. Drew Bledsoe. Wow.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get right into this because it was such a busy week and a half for Jet fans and JD Joe Douglas. He was on the phone nonstop, and I know Robert Saleh took a break from his 8 or 9 kids, and he's happy. And a lot of Jet fans are giddy. And I guess the first question is with all the signings like of this offensive line, John Simpson, Tyrone Smith, um, Moses Morgan, and Mike Williams that just signed the other day, plus some other signings. Tyrod Taylor. I mean, are we on the Kool-Aid again, or are we going to be just like wait and see? I want to ask Ray first. Ray, what's your feelings about everything that happened?
Um, I'm not on the. I've sworn off a Kool-Aid for a long time now. Uh, you get back to me on that in like week 6 or 7, and it might, I might be sipping it by that point. But no, I mean, there's too many question marks, even with all these free agents. I like what he did. We've shored up the team, but I'm not planning any, you know, Super Bowl trips at this point.
Right. Okay. And you, Ralph?
After last year, I swore I'd never do the Kool-Aid bit again, and I can hear it now in preseason.
Oh,
God, I think we're going to have the best offensive line in the league. Oh my God, our defense is going to be number one because the offense is going to move the ball, and I'll probably end up buying into it, but not yet because, well, like Ray said, they're good moves, but this team is put together with chewing gum and duct tape. These guys are old and
oh,
a lot of them are injured. Marty, you gave a list of some guys this week we're going to talk about, and one of them's coming off an ACL, and I say, perfect. He fits right into our
Right.
strategy.
That's
So
well,
yeah.
let's see if we even come out of training camp with all of these guys for.
yeah.
Well, the one thing I want to give Joe Douglas credit to, and we all know a lot of this stuff was 1 year contracts, and
Hmm.
on the negative side too, which I thought of with all these injuries, we always talk about, especially Ray, about chemistry in the offensive line. And Ray, you know that once training camp comes, you're going to have like one, two, maybe even three guys on the sideline on the bicycle,
No,
maybe on the pup list. So it's kind of hard to develop chemistry. But in all the defense of Joe Douglas, these were, for the most part, incentive Latin contracts, basically 1 year. I guess he could, get out of it. So I want to give him credit for that. And the reason being, Ralph, were you surprised, Ralph, that at this point, and I think we could all agree that he's fighting for his life with Robert Saleh, that he didn't start giving away draft picks? Were you surprised at that?
No, not at all. He's always been very tough about that. I have confidence in him in that way, and when he's talking to these guys, including Clowney, I feel like he's not going to overpay. I mean, the Kinlaw thing was kind of weird. I didn't quite get that one, but the other ones, like you said, I think they're reasonable. And as Ray, as that T-shirt said, rebuilding since 1969. It's like I don't care about 3 years down the line. If it all falls apart, then we're no different than we have been for the last 14 years. So let's try something new. Um, Obviously it all hinges on Aaron Rodgers staying up for most of the year. If he misses 2 or 3 games, I can live with that. Same thing with Smith. I'm going to expect it, but I think the window is small and he's going for it, and it's the only approach. And I'm just pleased that he was able to get some of these players. I guess Tyron Smith didn't get very many offers. Teams are shying away from guys with injuries. Gee, I wonder why. But he could work out. If he misses 3 or 4 games, I'll take that.
Ray, how much better do you feel going into the 24 season with Tyrod Taylor at the backup quarterback rather than
Hmm.
Zach Wilson?
well, I mean, that isn't even a issue. That I mean, that we've seen him before. We played against him. The only question with him is, can he stay healthy? I mean, if he gets in there, is he going to actually be able to finish a game without getting knocked out? He's had his own injury issues, but when he's on the field, he's been dynamic at times. I have no worry about him as a backup um, from the standpoint of playing. It's a matter of can he stay healthy? And like Ralph said, if we lose Rodgers for a game or two, that's somebody who I think can step in and do the job.
Right.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
same thing with the offensive lineman, which is why I think we do have to draft some guys who are more long term. But you know, Tyron Smith hasn't uh, done a complete season since 2015. So any expectation of him playing 17 games or whatever is probably pretty unrealistic. So Joe's still got some work to do to make sure we've got enough depth for somebody to step in capably. But overall, I think he's done a good job, but let's face it, we're going to be talking about this exactly the same way next year. These are all 1 year deals, and probably several of them won't come back. Who knows? Or he'll have to extend them. So we're probably going to be going through all this same talk next year about the line and possibly about the receivers. Hopefully not.
Ralph, you mentioned Jadeveon Clowney. Let's get into that right now. Do you want the Jets to sign him? Do you think they will? Unlike Mike Williams, who went into the building and they wouldn't let him out till he signed a contract. Clowney was there and he left, and he's going to see a couple of other teams. I've always liked him. Ray knows that, but tell me your thoughts.
Well, Clowney's a mercenary. He does this every year. So, unlike Mike Williams, which was just really the first time for him. And I've come around to Clowney. I guess for years I kind of resented him because he got so much hype coming out. That one tackle against Michigan made him the number one. Like he's been a solid player, but not, what's his name? Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald were picked later in the draft, and obviously both of them far superior to him. But if he had a good year last year, which is going to make him a little more expensive. But my feeling is the Jets, on the offensive line now, they need depth. On the defensive line, I think they need another defensive end who's going to play at 50% of the snaps. Unless you are comfortable with Michael Clemens being the fourth. And I think I'd rather have Clowney or some of the other guys we're going to talk about. And I think if Douglas, comes up with another reasonable contract, yeah, I'll take Clowney. I mean, I think they got to be all in, and they need that fourth guy because while I was big on McDonald coming out, he's not a guarantee. And even if he does play well, the way they rotate their guys, they need a fourth guy. They lost Huff and Lawson, and they haven't replaced them. So I'd be happy to get Clowney at a reasonable offer. Yeah.
Ray, what are your thoughts about Clowney?
I don't think he's a must, but yeah, I wouldn't mind having him, like Ralph said, for the right price. I mean, I don't want to spend too much on a guy who, um, he's good, but he's not great. He's solid. He can make plays, but then he's not. He does, his whole year isn't that way. Usually he's kind of up and down throughout a year. I wouldn't mind him for the right price, and he may want. I think you had mentioned when we were talking about that he wants a multi-year deal. So if they could get him at the right price for a couple of years, that'd be fine. I think to me, I'm interested to see if crap, who's the guy we picked out of last year?
From
McDonald. If McDonald can make a big leap, that could
right.
change everything. But until we're sure on that, yeah, I wouldn't mind having him. But if he doesn't sign, that's not going to be a big deal to me either, because then he probably wanted too much money.
I always liked Clowney and Ralph. Ray could tell you, I've always been big on him. I agree that he never lived up to the hype. But Ralph, I asked Ray this question. I'm going to ask you. I asked him yesterday if Jadeveon Clowney was a third round draft pick. What type of a career would you describe that he had?
A very good career, good to very good career. And it's kind of deceptive as far as his sacks go. He kind of reminds me a little of Jermaine Johnson, who's not doesn't get a ton of sacks, but he's disruptive, blocks passes, causes fumbles. I think he scored around 3 touchdowns in his career. So yeah, I mean he's a disruptive player. I get your point, Marty. Yeah, the expectations definitely have a lot to do with it, the perception of a player. Um,
I
but
remember years ago, not to interrupt you, that
yeah,
when we beat the Tom Brady in the playoffs up in Foxborough, a big part of that game, especially the first half, if you remember, the Jets had picked up a defensive end or an edge rusher from Miami, Jason Taylor. And
Mm-hmm.
if you remember, he was in the backfield that whole first half of
mm,
the game. In fact, I don't believe he had a sack, but I believe he turned Brady into, I think, Sean Ellis once or twice, and Ellis had a couple of sacks. So, it just kind of reminds me of that situation. I think Jason Taylor was only there like, I don't know, 1 year, maybe 2 years.
Mm.
So if the money's there, I would get him. The one thing I would say, Ralph, and I know I want to hear your point. One of the names on the list of players still available kind of intrigues me a little bit, except for the fact that he's a little up there in age. Calais Campbell is an edge rusher. He's 37 years old. But this guy for the Atlanta Falcons, and I really liked him last year. I thought the Jets were going to sign him. He actually started 17 games and he ended the season with 6.5 sacks. I think that's the type of veteran, if we can't get Clowney, that I'd like to sign. He's still available. So, Ralph, I interrupted you. Finish your thoughts and tell me what you think of my idea of
No,
Cam.
I agree with you. I do think they need another edge rusher. He doesn't have to be a star. I think Calais Campbell fits into that. Yeah. I mean, some guys can play older. He apparently is, still healthy and fairly productive. A Bud Dupre, a Yannick Ngakwe, someone like that, someone who's not a star, but a guy who can, give you 5 or 6 sacks and some pressures, and be a compliment to Will McDonald on that side. So I'd go for Curly Campbell, and yeah, I think it was down to the Jets in Atlanta for him last year, and I was surprised that he went with Atlanta because Atlanta didn't have much of a potentially. I mean, the Jets did. Of course, it fell apart, but I forget his reasons, what he gave for it. But
I don't know.
we'll see.
If I remember, I don't even think he showed up for the meeting, or maybe it was just like what happened with Mike Williams, that he never left the building. But we'll see. I mean, I think we all agree that they're going to need something there in the middle of rotation. I think he would be perfect.
Mm.
Anywhere from like 18 to like 30 plays. And we all know how Salah feels about rotating his players too. Ray, I think I had sent you both a list of the Jets that are still free agents. I don't know, Ralph, do you still have that list?
Uh, I have it somewhere, but I kind of in my own head know the ones that I might be interested in.
Oh, okay. I was gonna. Could you just name some of the names, and I want Ray to start out with who he might be interested in re-signing. There's like
Ray,
two names I want. Go
Ray,
ahead.
you don't have the list
Probably
there,
all
Ray?
want the same too. I
Yeah,
mean,
probably.
I
Okay,
have it here if you want me to read it off.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Hang on one sec. Let me pull up the text.
Yeah,
Uh,
it should be. And by the way, you're listening to Jets Rewind. If you
there
were looking for the live stream, I apologize. We had a glitch. Hopefully, you went to our site and you're listening now to the repeat. Go ahead, Ray.
Offense: Becton, Dwayne Brown, Randall Cobb, Connor McGovern, Billy Turner, Trevor Simeon. Defense: Carl Lawson, Al Woods, Ashton Davis, Jalen Holmes, Odin Igbo. I don't know how to pronounce that first name. Sam Egg. I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
know.
know
Egwabone, and
either.
special teamer Justin Hardy.
Oh,
I would
wait,
recommend Marty give those off.
right. Did you mention Ashton Davis?
Yes, after Al
Okay.
Woods.
So, Ray, tell me who would you be interested in bringing back?
Probably the same as everybody. I would want Ashton Davis and Justin Hardy.
Okay. How about you, Ralph?
Um, yeah, I like Ashton Davis and Hardy, but I don't think they bring them both. They're both kind of gunners, so I would prefer Ashton Davis, and I might take if Connor McGovern is still is checks out medically. I'd like him as a depth piece. Gee, Becton hasn't been picked up.
Yeah, that's right.
Surprise there.
But I don't want, I don't see why we have to bring back Hardy because I'm of the opinion, I don't know. I'm not like Bill Belichick. I don't think we should raise the roster spot on special teams.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
just had a meeting. They're thinking of doing away with the kickoffs. You got a guy like Irving Charles
Hmm.
that he could be gunner. I'd rather go that direction. But Ashton Davis, I really like. He's come on. And like you, Ralph, I do like Connor McGovern. Now, there's one player, and I didn't hear of him, but the last game of the year, he was in the Patriots' backfield. He had a sack. This Jalen Holmes, if you remember, he had a very good game against the Patriots. So hopefully they could bring him back. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, I love. Look, he's an Ohio State guy, isn't he, Ray?
Dylan
He
Holmes, I don't even reckon he might be. I mean,
he. I remember in the preseason he had a couple of sacks in a garbage time, and I thought, this guy is worth a look. See, yeah, I think they'll probably bring him back. I don't know if he'll make the team or be on a practice squad, but he's intriguing. Yeah.
yeah, I really like what I saw about him. Just his get off the line of scrimmage. Uh, Talking about the Jets free agents, I want to start with Ralph. I gave you a short list, but are there any other free agents from other teams that you'd consider? We spoke about Khalid Campbell. Anyone else that could be
Well, you
affordable?
mentioned Dalton Reisner. I know you're a big Dalton Reisner fan. I don't think he's a starter, and the Jets are not going to pay a starter to be on the depth piece. So I think we have to. The same thing with Connor Williams, even though he's coming off the injury, he's also a starter. And again, they have their starters already, so I think they're going to look for depth guys. Uh, One position that is not really talked about that I don't know if you guys are comfortable going to the season with the safety. Chuck Clark and Tony Adams, who's already got his gold jacket. I think the guy last year I thought he was an average player. I mean, I hope he takes a big leap this year, but they talk about him like he's this guy's a starter and blah blah. I'm not totally convinced yet. I would love to see Ashton Davis get a crack at that starting job because I think he can tackle and he covers a lot of ground back there. But if it were me, the position I would pay someone a serious safety like a Justin Blackman or a Justin Simmons or a Julian Blackman, someone like that. But they probably cost a lot. And I think they think they've got their starters. Chuck Clark is coming back from an injury, so I'm not comfortable with that position yet. I don't know about you guys.
Right. No, I think they might pick someone else up, but I think he was activated, this guy, the last couple of games, but we don't have a large enough playbook on him. This Jared Bernard Converse from
Oh,
LSU.
yeah.
So I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on him?
I don't remember much about him. So I mean I know who he is, but you're right. We don't have enough tape on this guy to know whether we can really count on
Right.
him.
Now, I always thought, Ray, that Bryce Hall, he just signed with his old coach on Tampa Bay, the old Jet coach. What was his name, Ray?
you know,
Who was the old coach of the Jets?
well,
Ralph? Who was he?
What's his name? Starts with a B. I'm getting uh
We all have a mental thing. He's the coach of the Buccaneers now.
yeah,
Yeah. But
Todd Bowles.
Todd
Todd
Bowles, that's
Bowles,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So Bryce Hall, interestingly, we all know his history that he was highly regarded coming out of college, but he hurt his ankle his last year. But Ray, I always thought with his height, they should have tried him at safety. What were your thoughts? It was what you didn't lose any sleep when he signed with the Tampa Bay, did you?
No. um, I wouldn't be surprised if we just draft a safety. To me, it's a spot that I think that's another reason to bring, Ashton Davis back as well as he could possibly fill in there as needed. But I think they could draft one rather than overpay on someone in free agency. I'm,
Mm.
that is a concern though with Clark, but the thing I think is good about the Clark injury, if there is anything, is it happened during training camp. So he's had a whole year to rehab. It's not something that happened late in the year where he'd be, we don't even know if he'd be ready to play. So he's had plenty of time to rehab it. It's just now is the mental thing gonna affect him? Um, Other than that, I'm okay with it. Hey, on Jalen Holmes, I had to look him up. He did go to Ohio State, and I don't know why I don't remember him, but he played every game his last 3 years. But I want to bring him back. He's got my same birthday as me, so I'm all for
That, believe me, when I see an athlete like when my birthday, I'm all in.
it.
Yeah. All right. Listen, in a way, this is a great time of year. Baseball is starting and we're getting close to the draft. Um, they signed Mike Williams the other day. I just want to talk about him for a minute. Ralph, what's your feelings about them? Here's another guy with an ACL who's
Mm.
tall, who's a great jump ball artist, but you think if he's back 100% or 90%, he's a good compliment.
Yeah, he's a good compliment. He's not a game breaker. He moves the chains and he's good in the red zone. He definitely is good in 50-50 balls. And yeah, I think that takes a lot of pressure off them, that signing. I still think they're going to draft a receiver with one of their first three picks. I'm still hoping they trade back and get a second rounder. They
We're
might
gonna
even,
get we're gonna get into that in a second.
yeah,
Go ahead,
yeah.
Ralph.
But like I said, they needed to make that move. I'm glad that he decided to come here. I think the Aaron Rodgers influence probably helped a lot in regard to that, and getting Tyrone Smith also. So if nothing else, Aaron, he doesn't play any games, but at least he attracts some players to the team.
Yeah, and Ray, what's your thoughts on Mike Williams?
Well, I wanted him from the start when he got dropped. But the only thing is, it's another 1 year deal. So, and this for him is a prove it year. So if he has a really good year, he's going to want a lot more than he signed with us for this 1 year. So I don't know if we can keep him beyond 1 year. So yeah, I think drafting a wide receiver is kind of a must as well. Um, but and you guys know how I felt about Brock Bowers. We told you before that I wasn't big on it.
Okay, I guess we're getting
Because of
into
the
the draft
line.
right now,
Yeah.
but go ahead, Ray.
Well, that if that's once they signed Williams and got all the linemen, I was like, okay, if they really think Bowers will be the big game changer, I was okay with it. But until Joe had signed those linemen, and then the Mike Williams thing for me was like, okay, now do whatever you want. I'd still like a lineman, but if they think Bowers, if he's there, if they think Bowers is the
Right.
key,
And
then go for it.
and Ralph, what and by the way, I just want to mention a report, Ralph. I want your opinion about who they're going to draft, but Ian Rappaport just came out saying how that the Broncos and the Raiders are two teams that are dying to move up in the draft, which bodes well for the New York Jets, as Ray is shaking his head trying to keep from cracking up. But Ralph, what are your thoughts about the 10th pick? And then I'll give you my idea.
Well, I feel like since we all assume that Tyrone Smith is not going to, be there for 17 games, that I want someone who's going to be a decent backup. If you look at the left tackles who've been picked the last few years in the first round, a lot of them they're not plug and play. All these guys, there's no guarantee at all. Just ask the Giants. Um, but I feel like if they do pick a left tackle, he can sit and learn for half a season, and then when Tyrone Smith starts getting banged up, maybe he'll be ready to come in and do a decent job. And of course, and you'll have him next year because between Morgan Moses and Moses Morgan Moses. What's his
Moses
he and Smith. I mean, well, I can't. It would be shocking if both of them are going to be there next year. So I think we need to have a farm system to develop. And if Aaron Rodgers is going to be around for a couple of years, we need that left tackle spot. And so I think it'll be a developmental year. I want him to take a left tackle, and I think there are a lot of left tackles, a lot of tackles. It's
Yes.
a very deep draft. They can drop back and get a guy and develop him for half a year. And everyone's saying, well, if it's not Joe Alt, we don't want him because he's not going to be able to step in. And I mean, just because he's mocked as the number one guy, I mean, we could sit here all night and talk about number one picks at a position that did end up being the best player at that position, and so you just got to pick the guy that your scouts think is the best at that point, and I think they can get someone. Even trading back now, where's the Raiders in Denver? What numbers are they? They're pretty close to the Jets, I believe,
Yeah,
aren't they?
which is good. I like to pick up whatever we could.
Right.
Let me see the draft order. Ray, you wouldn't trade back, or would you trade back? I think you want to trade back, right?
I would trade back. I don't want to trade too far back, but if they can pick up a second rounder and trade back, I don't know, still stay in the teens, but or just right around 20, 21,
Hmm.
something like that, I'd be
Right.
okay with it. I just don't want to trade to the very back of the first round. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
teams of 20, you'll get an offensive tackle or a wide
the
receiver.
yeah, I
the
think so too.
the Broncos are 12th.
Yeah.
The Raiders are 13th.
Yeah. So if you're going to get a second, you're going to have to add something to the pot if you're the Jets, probably.
Well, I would.
Uh,
They have two
yeah.
floors,
Oh,
so
yeah. I would definitely, if
I,
that's the
yeah, I would definitely. I want to get in the second round. As
sure.
Ralph says, it's very, very thick with offensive linemen. And I'm very nervous about all these injuries. And I was telling you guys, I stated it publicly that until they could get around these injuries, instead of having 8 or 9 offensive linemen on the roster, they should have 10. You got to overload with it, and you're going to have to lose out somewhere else. But I think you have to do it. And there are so many offensive linemen that I would definitely trade back, get a second round pick. I would even accumulate more because you know what's going to happen in a couple of years. Believe it or not, we're going to have to come up with money for like 3 of our star players on the team, Sauce, Brees Hall, and Garrett Wilson, and we're going to have other players under rookie contracts too, and they have to weigh that now. So I would definitely trade back. I would try to accumulate as many picks as we could and get a number of players under rookie contracts. And I would definitely draft 1 or maybe 2 offensive linemen. And I like these players that are interchangeable. I love guys that could play all 5 positions, center, guard, and tackle. So that's what I would do too. And it's interesting because everyone's saying it. We say it every year. This is the most exciting draft we're ever going to see. I mean, the stories you're hearing about the quarterbacks and how J.J. McCarthy is moving up the list and Bo Nix is moving up the list and Michael Penix Jr., who was they had him a month ago in the second round or third. Now he's moving up into the first round. It's just unbelievable what's going on. And if you know the history, as Ray and Ralph know, it doesn't matter as much. And you look at a guy like Brock Purdy, and we all know Tom Brady, and I want the Jets not just to draft 1 quarterback. I would draft 2. We spoke about McCarthy. I just want to hear Ralph. You're pretty good with quarterbacks. What's your take on Bo Nix?
I like Bo Nix. I like him. I mean, quarterbacks are so tough to evaluate because most of it is in their head, and you just don't know. The game speeds up at each level, and you don't know if the processing is there in their brain. Uh, I think Bo Nix is going to be a first round pick, and I think Penix is. I think there's going to be a ton of first round picks. The thing about Penix, I love his pocket presence, the way he moves around. People, Mel Kiper, because of the championship game, drop him a little. I think that's crazy. Michigan had better lines, and that's what happens. Quarterbacks can only do so much. Um, like more and more and more, Marty, look, this is good for the Jets. If so it's so funny. All these teams are going for quarterbacks. Here we're leaning on a 40-year-old quarterback, and we're just sitting back going, we don't need a quarterback, but
Oh no, we do.
we do. And you're right. I think you need 1 or 2 picks later in the draft and get one to sit behind the 2 veterans and see if he'll develop. the Jets have just at the last two picks in the draft right now. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Which is actually, I think, an advantage because at that point they know who's going to be free agents and they can sort of pick and choose like, well, we'll draft this guy because we don't have as good a shot to sign him in free agency. But yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, Marty.
Ray, yeah, Ray, I want to ask you because you work sometimes crazy shifts. Let's say it's like 2 in the morning and you take your break and you check your phone, you see you have a text from me, and I say the Jets traded back. First round, they took J.C. Latham, the tackle from Alabama. The second round, they took Michael Penix. Is it a good night for Ray Clifford?
Um, I'm not big on Latham, but I mean, like Ralph says, depth is depth, and I think he'd be there. I don't think some of the others that they talk about would be there that late. Um, I'd rather have a wide receiver than Penix, even though I like Penix. I like Penix a lot, but I'd rather have a receiver. But I wouldn't be upset at it. No, I mean, but I think if we're going to pick up a second round pick, I'd want somebody who might be more of a difference maker right off the bat, like a receiver could be. Um,
Okay.
it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to
How
me.
about yeah? How about you, Ralph? If those two players are picked in the first two rounds,
Um, as far as Latham goes, there are other guys, Guyton and kid from Duke. I don't know. As long as Joe Doug he picks the guy he thinks is the best out of those guys. If Penix is there in the second round, and the Jets would probably have a mid to late second round pick, that would be tough to pass up. I cannot believe he would last even close to that long. But if he did, and they still had their third round pick, yeah, I'd go for it, and then I'd grab a receiver with the third round pick.
yeah, a lot of people they're on J.C. Latham because of that last play of the game where
Yeah,
he kind of didn't make his play. Apparently, he something happened with his ankle, whatever it is. But I'm told that this guy is really some road grader, and he's mean, and he's really really good. And I've heard he's moving up the charts, and Mel Kiper likes him a lot. We're going to close it out in a minute, but one last question before you guys can add anything you want. But Ray, is there any market for Zach Wilson? And I'm saying that considering that the Bears, what they got for Justin Fields. What do you think, Ray, at this point?
No, I didn't think so before they traded Fields, but with as little as Fields got, I think there's no market for him as a trade. I think there's a market for him as a free agent. We've talked about it before, and I do think some coaches out there will go, oh, I can fix him. I can work with that, and I can make him into a pro. Not maybe a full-time starter, but they can make him serviceable as a backup. I think there's somebody out there who always thinks they can fix him, but I don't think I'll be shocked if anybody would give up a bag of balls for him right now.
so
But
Ray, if they release him, do they? How does it work as far as his cap go? What is his effect on the cap if they
it
You're gonna
shouldn't
release
you're
be,
gonna get hit.
yeah, but it shouldn't
him?
be a big hit because he's under the rookie deal, so
Mm, yeah.
it's not
Well,
going to be like he's millions.
Yeah, I feel like if they trade him and the other team takes on his salary, the Jets would
Oh,
probably have to throw
I would.
something in.
no team is
Person
gonna
that
pay.
says yes, I'm like take it. I
Yeah,
wish what
right. I think the Jets would have to add a draft pick or something.
yeah, no, no.
they
Listen,
might.
if they trade him, mark my words, the Jets are gonna have to eat some of his salary.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
the only team I've heard that rumors say are interesting is the 49ers. They really wanted him in the draft. And maybe Shanahan thinks he can turn him into something. The funny thing is, if he did play on that team with the way they block and all their weapons and Shanahan's, ability to deal with quarterbacks, he probably could make him into something okay. So we'll see.
yeah. All
But I
right.
don't think there's any
Yeah.
market for him either.
I just don't. I just don't. Okay, we're going to close this out. Let's get back to this classic trivia question. I wrote down
Wait a
two
minute. What
names.
about the what if?
Oh yeah, what if? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, 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 no. Who do you take?
Who do you
Yeah,
take?
yeah.
Who do you take? Right. Okay, we're going to do a couple of who do you takes. Old Jets. We're going to compare them. This first one, I would give anything for either of these guys to be on the team right now. Um, Darrell Ray or Eric McMillan, who do you take?
I like Eric McMillan. I always liked him. So
I,
I'd take him in a second.
I love them both, but I would take Darrell Ray.
I'm gonna tell you a funny story, Marty. You remember this when we watched the Cincinnati playoff game in 1981 together at my house, and when Darrell Ray he picked off the pass, and he went 98 yards. It wasn't like right down the sideline. He caught it in the middle of the field, and the minute he caught the ball, Marty just grabs me and says, "He's going all the way." It's like
Right.
Marty's best prediction.
That's
Um,
that was a great run back. Not quite as good as Aaron Glenn's 100-yard plus run back,
yeah.
but it was a great run back. But I would take Darrell Ray. Okay, go ahead, Ralph. This is a good category. Go ahead. This is real fun.
Uh, okay, another one. How about the Brickishaw Ferguson and Marvin Powell?
Ooh.
I would take
Um,
Marvin Powell. I like Brick. And his durability was his best asset.
Mm,
I just thought he
which is
was a
a heck of an
little
asset.
bit overrated.
Mm.
The back nine of his career. He was a good to very good player, but I just thought like he made one or two extra Pro Bowls. He didn't have to. I liked Marvin Powell a lot. I would take Marvin Powell. Right?
Same, same. I like Marvin Powell a lot. He was just an all-around good tackle. I like Brick, but like you said, to me, he was actually a little undersized to me for the position, but he was so athletic that he made up for it.
Mm.
And I liked Brick a lot, but I would take Powell.
What about you, Ralph?
I'd probably go with Powell. At his best, he was better than Brickishaw Ferguson. But when you say his best asset was his durability, that's a huge asset. As we
It
as we've learned, that is worth a lot. So
is. Well, and
yeah.
it's funny. One of my favorite Jets, who I don't think ever made the Pro Bowl. It was I always talk about him, Brandon Moore.
Oh yeah,
I
excellent.
love that guy because
Well, Moses Morgan, Morgan Moses, this guy is 33. He is a durable player.
yeah. Well, up till now,
Yeah.
he's on
Well,
the Jets.
he played. Didn't he play all those games for the Jets?
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
want to lose him. I liked him. He
No,
wasn't
I
that
know, I know.
great.
It's too bad, but
And
some guys are just stay healthy, and some guys just are always injured. It's just the way it
and the
is.
question is, why does the Ravens give him up for basically a 6th-round pick?
Ozzie Newsome's got an interesting philosophy. He lets guys go all the time, whether it's Matt
Isaac's
Ju
not there anymore, is he?
Is he
No,
not there? Well, he's not there, but I guess his his
his
uh, his his
philosophy.
Protege. Yeah,
philosophy is
his
there.
protege.
Judon and C.J. Mosley and he lost
Patrick
his
Queen.
whole offensive line this year, and he they just seem to be able to just replenish all the time, and they don't seem to want to pay the big money, but it doesn't matter. They're still a competitive team. Harbaugh's a great coach, and it
Right.
works for them.
Talking.
Interesting little
Go ahead, Ray.
fact about the Brickishaw that was I was at the Hall of Fame when Joe Thomas got inducted, and they made the biggest deal out of it. He never missed a snap, and all I could think of was when Marty told me that Brick missed one snap his whole career, and it was only because of a trick play at the end of
Yeah.
a game. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, geez,
That is it.
that's too
Yeah.
bad.
Okay. Last question, not a Jet question, but do you guys think like the Philadelphia Eagles might have been the most improved team so far in the offseason? Ralph?
Pittsburgh had a pretty good one too.
Ralph?
And they're actually sounds like they might sign Justin Simmons, so
Oh,
there's still more to come with them. Yeah. Yeah, that team really fell off the map last year, and I thought, they just lost Fletcher Cox, he retired, and guys like that, and then suddenly they just like went crazy in free agency. So,
Kelsey
he's
retired too, the center.
right, Kelsey, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Ray?
Roseman's great.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he's a mover. Ray,
Mm,
your thoughts on
I
the
thought the Eagles were good. I thought Pittsburgh was really good too. Pittsburgh had some really good pickups. I'm not so I'm not sold on Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, but I thought that was an improvement.
Yeah, over Kenny
Yeah,
Pickett and
and
Trubisky. Well, I
yeah.
guess so.
So
Or Mason
uh,
Rudolph or whatever his
they
name is.
got Queen. They made the Ravens weaker. They picked up
Yeah.
the Queen on the defense.
But the
So I
Ravens,
think
they'll plug
they'll
in
both be.
guys and they'll find them, I
They
The
do.
guess.
Pennsylvania battle might be intense this year.
Mm.
Okay, we're going to close it out. One of the players, we overlooked something on my notes. They got John Simpson, the
Mm.
offensive lineman. He's like a penalty machine now. I was looking
Well,
at,
even last year, too.
yeah, I think last year also.
Well, what's the Jet offensive line without a penalty machine? I think
Well, okay, let's see what happens. All
Keith
right,
Carter will coach him up.
yeah, okay. Oh wait, let's get back to the trivia question.
All right.
I got two. Read it again, Ralph.
There were 7 quarterbacks who were the number 1 pick in the draft their year and also started for a Super Bowl winner. Can you name 7?
Could I name? I have two.
All
All right,
right.
Ray, you mind if I go first?
Go ahead.
I say Peyton Manning and Jim Plunkett.
Correct.
Okay, that's two.
All right.
Go ahead, Ray.
Elway,
Correct.
Oh, good one.
Staubach.
No, Staubach was a late pick because he had to serve 4 years in the Navy.
So I wasn't sure.
He was like a 4th round pick. Can you imagine
I'm
getting that
not
dude?
positive. Bradshaw.
Bradshaw was correct. Yes.
This one I'm not sure of either. Stafford.
That's the one I missed. Good one, right? The most recent one. I missed that one. Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I was like, was he a first? Or I knew he went early, but I was
He
like,
went the year that Jets picked Sanchez, 4th or 5th. Stafford was number 1.
I
Yeah, I
should.
totally forgot about that one. Yeah.
So
So you
who
got
is
2 left. There are 2 left. One of them
Two.
is, yeah.
Oh,
um, got it.
One of them is a local guy, and he actually has a brother who was also an answer in it.
local guy.
Eli wasn't the number one, was he?
Yeah, he was Eli.
Was he number one?
Oh,
Oh man.
okay.
Remember, he didn't want to play for San
He didn't want to
Diego.
play San
Yeah.
Diego, but I forgot he
That's a
was.
good one. Yeah,
And
that's a
the,
good
and
one.
the last one is a guy who we've been listening to as a color commentator for many years now.
Ray must know this one.
Kurt Warner. No,
He worked in the
I know
grocery.
he was
Go
a
ahead,
real
Ralph. We
geek.
have to close this up.
Troy Aikman. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Damn it.
Now people don't realize when people think that quarterbacks after 1 year are bust, they should look at Troy Aikman's stats. If you remember, he was awful his first
I think
couple.
they were all in 11 with him the first year.
They
Yeah.
were
But
Yeah.
they were 1-15 that year too.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and even Peyton Manning, look at his TD interception rate
Yeah.
his first year.
Well,
You know,
Plunkett, he
yeah,
started out good and then he faded quick, and everybody thought his career was over.
yeah.
Oh, look, Bradshaw was the worst of all. He was six touchdowns, 24 interceptions.
He
You know,
was
I, I,
terrible.
I
Yeah,
saw a great show where Joe Buck interviewed Bradshaw. Even to this day, he can't even talk about Chuck Noll. He just has such anger toward that guy.
Really?
And he won't go back to Pittsburgh at all. He says his career was miserable, which is unbelievable. He won 4 Super
four
Bowls.
Super Bowls. That really
Yeah,
is incredible.
I
Hey,
know.
here's a little quick trivia about Bradshaw, which you might or might not know. Can you name who the starting quarterback was at the college he went to, and Bradshaw backed him up?
Yeah, it was the guy in Duck.
Phil.
Yeah, and Bradshaw said he was a good quarterback
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
He
Really,
doesn't look the part.
So,
But then again, if you look at Bradshaw now, he doesn't look like he could do it
yeah, it
either.
doesn't. Yeah. All right, for Ray Clifford and Ralph Schrager and Marty Schupak, we're going to have a live stream one day. Someday we're going to have it. So for all of us, check out our website, and until next time.